Good day, everyone. So, for today's lecture, we are going to discuss the introduction to cardiac radiology and cardiac pathologies. So, for the cardiac imaging, chest radiography is the mainstay for imaging of the heart, and it provides the initial evaluation of the heart. And then you can also use fluoroscopy, which provides dynamic information because this is real time. And then echocardiography, angiography, CT scan, and MRI are also used. Echocardiogram, these images are an example of your echocardiogram. This is non-invasive. It is used for the evaluation of the anatomy and real-time function. Doppler provide hemodynamics, and it is ease of use, low cost, excellent resolution with no radiation, and has 96% reliability in CHD. So this is the anatomy of your heart in echocardiography. So this is the right atrium, right ventricle, and then in between is the tricuspid valve, and then left atrium, left ventricle, and then here is the mitral valve. Next is the cardiac catheterization. So for this one, this is your gold standard. Intra and extra cardiac structures are being evaluated in here. It is also real time. For the morphology and function, and then the limitations are it is invasive, which may produce catheter-related complications with use of ionizing radiation and sedation risks. And then it uses high amounts of iodinated contrast material. So this is an example of your cardiac catheterization technique. This is how it looks like. So it uses ionizing radiation. So catheter is being used to inject contrast material. Okay, so in here, as you can see, this is the area of the aorta, right coronary artery, the pulmonary artery in here, your right coronary artery, and then your left coronary artery in here, and so on. So again, this is an example of your cardiac catheterization technique. And then CT scan. Multi-detector technology with faster speed, which decreases sedation needs and nearly eliminated the respiratory artifacts. With thinner slices and improved resolution and 3D reconstruction, and the indications are valvular and septal disease, shunt defects, aortic anomalies, and so on. So this is an example of your axial CT scan, the anatomy of your cardiac in your CT scan. Okay. So this is your axial views in CT scan, and this is the area of your cardiac. Next is the MRI. So it is non-invasive with no radiation, static and dynamic display with multiplanar capability. And this one has longer acquisition, unlike your CT scan. And because of its longer acquisition, sedation needed in young kids. Because usually yung mga younger patients, they are not cooperative. They will move from time to time. So they needed to be sedated during your MRI. Okay, so this one naman, your axial views in your MRI. So this is the area of the cardia. Okay, so and then another MRI in axial view. And then this one is coronal. And this one is sagittal views. So axial, coronal, and then sagittal view. Cardiac imaging and chest radiography. So this one is your chest X-ray, PA, and lateral view. It is most commonly ordered, established screening tool. And then systematic approach is necessary. So if you will look at your chest X-ray, you should know the border forming. Okay, so what are the borders of the heart that you will see in the right and in the left? So in here, that's the area of your SVC, superior vena cava, right atrium, right ventricle. So this is the area of your aorta from the root, ascending, transverse, and then your pulmonary artery in here. Then this is the area of your left atrium and then the left ventricle. So your left atrium, take note that this is not your border forming in the left. Okay, your left atrium. Your left atrium, you can see it better in your lateral view. So this is the area of your left atrium in lateral view. Okay, superior and posterior area of the heart. And then this one is the left ventricle in lateral view. And this one, the more anterior, is the right ventricle. Okay, so that's the borders of the heart. In your normal posterior anterior chest radiograph, the first image, the frontal view of the chest demonstrates a normal heart size, contours, and chamber size. So in your chest X-ray PA view, you can assess if the heart is enlarged or not, if it's normal or enlarged. Okay, the highline pulmonary vascularity are normal, as you can see in here. That's the area of your pulmonary vascularity. The left ventricle, okay, so this is the area of your left ventricle. It is border forming on the left. And then the right atrium in here, it is border forming in the right. Then here is the aortic knob. It is of normal contour, as you can see. And then the pulmonary artery in here, it is usually concave. Okay, so this is the area of your pulmonary artery. This is your aortic knob, the right atrium, the left ventricle in here. And then in normal chest lateral radiograph, this is a well-positioned left lateral chest radiograph demonstrating the right ribs projected posterior to the left ribs because of divergence of the X-ray beam. The right and left bronchi are overlapped because this is your lateral view, so it is overlapped, and the sternum is seen in the lateral view. So this is the area of your sternum. The true lateral projection allows evaluation of the inferior vena cava. Okay, so in this area, this is where you will see the inferior vena cava intersection with the left ventricle. There is no evidence of posterior displacement of the left bronchus to indicate left atrial enlargement. Because sometimes if there is posterior displacement of the bronchus, so maybe it will indicate your left atrial enlargement. And also there is no evidence of right ventricular encroachment. If there is right ventricular enlargement, there will be decreased retrosternal space, okay, because of the enlarged right ventricle. But this one, there is no evidence of right ventricular enlargement because there is no encroachment into the retrosternal clear space. So again, what are the border forming structures in the right? So your superior vena cava, your inferior vena cava, and then the right atrium. So these are your border forming structures in the right in your posterior anterior view chest radiograph. And then the border forming structures in the left. So we have the aorta in here, your main pulmonary trunk, and then the left ventricle. In your posterior anterior view, chest X-ray, so these are your border forming structures in the left. So take note of this. This is very important. And then your pulmonary artery. So again, this is your right pulmonary artery and then the left pulmonary artery. So you can see your right pulmonary artery is somewhat more inferior in location than your left pulmonary artery. And then your pulmonary veins. So that's the area of your pulmonary veins in your chest X-ray. And then if you will imagine, this is the area of your left atrium. So from your pulmonary veins, it will collect the oxygenated blood and then it will go to your left atrium in here. So here, the border forming structures in lateral view, again, your left atrium in the posterior superior region, that's your left atrium, and then the left ventricle in the inferior. Okay, so again, in lateral view, this is your left atrium, and then the left ventricle in here. And then this one, more anteriorly, okay, again, your right ventricle. Okay, the more anterior chamber of the heart in your lateral view is your right ventricle. That's the border of the right ventricle in here. So it is anteriorly. And then another lateral view. So here's the area of your aorta. So from the root, ascending, arch of the aorta, and then descending. So that's the area of your aorta in your lateral view. So you can see in here. So that's the area of your aorta. And then the inferior vena cava in here. And then in here is your main pulmonary artery. So this is how you will imagine your lateral view of the X-ray. Then another, in lateral view also, this is the area of your left pulmonary artery. Then your right pulmonary artery and your pulmonary vein. So as you can see again, I said earlier, your left pulmonary artery is somewhat superior, or your right pulmonary artery is more inferior in location in comparison to relative to your left pulmonary artery. So in here is your left pulmonary artery, mas superior in location niya, and then mas inferior is your right pulmonary artery, and then your right pulmonary veins in this area, or your pulmonary veins in this area. So when you look at your chest X-ray, it should be systematic approach. Okay, so the overview or overall glance at the film, check for the cardiac position and situs, if there is situs, cardiac size, chamber enlargement, the position of the great vessels, the lungs, and the ancillary findings. Okay, so for the cardiac position, we have this levocardia, dextrocardia, and mesocardia. For the levocardia, it is predominantly in the left chest, and the cardiac apex points leftward. So that's your levocardia. Okay, again, it is predominantly in the left chest, and the cardiac apex points leftward. Then the dextrocardia, the heart is predominantly in the right chest, and the cardiac apex points rightward. And then your mesocardia, the heart is positioned in the midline, and the cardiac apex points directly inferiorly. Okay, so take note of the description of these cardiac positions in here. So here is the, as you can see, these are your chest X-ray, okay? So this one is your dextrocardia. As you can see, the apex, the cardiac apex is in the right. This one is the mesocardia, okay, in the midline. And then your levocardia, the apex is in the left. Okay, so these are your different cardiac positions. Dextrocardia, mesocardia, and your levocardia. And then for the cardiac size, you have to evaluate for how will you know that it is enlarged or not. So you will get the cardiothoracic ratio. Okay, so you should divide the widest transverse diameter of the heart by the widest transverse diameter of the thorax taken at the inner side of the rib cage. Okay, so you will get the widest transverse diameter of the heart. As you can see in here, so this is the widest transverse diameter of the heart. You will divide this one with the widest transverse diameter of the thorax. Okay, so from inner side of the rib, so you will get the widest transverse diameter. You will divide it so you can get the CT ratio. Okay, so the cardiothoracic ratio should not exceed 0.5 or 0.50 on a erect PA radiograph. Okay, so it should not exceed 50, 0.50. Because if it exceeds, so you will you can consider cardiac enlargement. Take note, should not exceed 0.50 in your PA radiograph and 0.60 on AP radiograph. Okay? Because again, in your AP radiograph, there is some degree of magnification of the heart. So that's why it is adjusted to 0.60. Okay, so again, 0.50 in your PA radiograph and then 0.60 in AP radiograph. So again, you will divide the widest transverse diameter of the heart by the widest transverse diameter of the thorax. So PA versus AP view. So this is how it looks like. So you already know the difference in your early year in med school. So you know already the difference between your PA and AP view. Okay. So in AP view, there's a degree of magnification. Okay, so your there is winging of the scapula, as you can see in here, while in PA, the scapula is usually winged out. No? So this your PA and AP view chest X-ray. So this one, it is with CTR of 0.63 in AP view. Okay, so this is an AP view. The CTR ratio of the patient is 0.63. So this is cardiomegaly in AP view because the cutoff is 0.60. So this one in AP view, this is cardiomegaly, and even if it is PA view, this is cardiomegaly. Okay, so it exceeds the normal cardiothoracic ratio. So this one, in your PA view with 0.48. So this is your normal cardiac size. Okay, so an enlarged heart. 0.48. Again, in your PA view, the cutoff is 0.50. So 0.48 CT ratio, this is normal heart. And then the shape, various contour effects can offer clues to underlying disease. So the shape of the heart, it will offer clues to underlying diseases. So straightening of the left heart border, it may indicate rheumatic heart disease and mitral stenosis. And if you see water bottle configuration, you can consider pericardial effusion or generalized cardiomyopathy. So here's an example of your pericardial effusion, water bottle appearance. Okay, so there is effusion or fluid in the pericardial space. Okay, so this is how your pericardial effusion looks like. Enlarged heart with fluid in the pericardial space. And then this one, there is straightening of the left atrium. Okay, so again in here, we discuss if there's straightening of the left heart border, as you can see in here. So it may indicate your rheumatic heart disease. For the pericardial effusion, so normally there are 15 to 50 ml of fluid in the pericardial space between the parietal and visceral pericardial layers. And then abnormal accumulations of fluid begin in the dependent portion of the pericardial space, which in the supine position is posterior to the left ventricle. As the pericardial effusion increases in size, it tends to accumulate more along the right heart border until it fills the pericardial space and encircles the heart. CT scans can demonstrate small pericardial effusions, although pericardial ultrasonography is usually the imaging study of first choice. And then conventional radiographs are poor at defining a pericardial effusion. Okay, you can't clearly define in your X-ray the pericardial effusion, but you can have sign like this one, your water bottle configuration. Okay, so this is your pericardial effusion. Okay, so what are the causes of your pericardial effusion? So it can be congestive heart failure, infection, can be bacterial or viral, metastatic malignancy, lung and breast especially, and then uremic pericarditis, collagen vascular disease, trauma, and post-pericardiotomy syndrome. So these are the causes of your pericardial effusion. So now let's go to your cardiac pathologies. No? Introduction to your cardiac pathologies. So this is an example of your tetralogy of Fallot. As you can see, it is boot-shaped heart. So if you will see like this sign, your boot-shaped heart, so you will think of tetralogy of Fallot. And then your coarctation of the aorta. Sorry, you have your figure of 3 sign. So that's your coarctation of the aorta. And then your TAP VR, or your total anomalous pulmonary venous return. So we have this supracardiac or type 1 total anomalous pulmonary venous return. So it is a snowman shape. Okay, so that's your snowman shape, your total anomalous pulmonary venous return. And then transposition of the great arteries, egg on string or egg on side. So that's your transposition of great vessels. So again, in your chest X-ray, you can detect congenital heart diseases by the shape of the heart. Okay, so your transposition of great vessels, it resembles egg on string or egg on side like this one. And then your Epstein anomaly, if it's a box-shaped heart, okay, so that's your Epstein anomaly. So this is how your Epstein anomaly looks like. It presents like a box-shaped heart. And then your chamber enlargement. For the left atrial enlargement, as you can see, it is very evident in this image. Distance from the mid-inferior border of the left mainstem bronchus to the right lateral border of the left atrial density. So it should be less than 7 centimeters. Okay, as you can see in here, again, the distance from the mid-inferior border of the left mainstem bronchus to the right lateral border of the left atrial density. Okay, so there is left atrial enlargement in here. It should be less than 7 centimeters. So that's the area of your left atrium. Here, again, so distance from the mid-inferior border of the left main stem bronchus. So this is your right main stem, the left main stem. So this is the inferior border of the left main stem bronchus to the right lateral border of the left atrial density. So this is your left atrial enlargement. Other signs of left atrial enlargement include splaying of the carinal angle. Okay, so that's the area of your carina. Uplifting of the left main stem bronchus, and prominence of the left atrial appendage on PA view. So this is the area of your left atrial appendage. There is splaying of the carinal angle, uplifting of the left main stem bronchus. Okay, so this is a sign of your left atrial enlargement. In normal, with no left atrial enlargement, it should look like this. So there will be no prominence of the left atrial appendage. There will be no splaying of the carinal angle, which are seen in your left atrial enlargement. Lateral views, an enlarged left atrium, because it is posterior, it is seen posteriorly, so it will displace the left bronchus posteriorly. Okay, so there will be displacement of the left main bronchus. So that's your walking man sign. This is a sign of your left atrial enlargement, because this is the area of your left atrium. So there is posterior displacement, no? So it is your left atrial enlargement. So this is how your walking man sign looks like now. Okay, so that's the area of your right main bronchus sa leg ng walking man. And then this is your left main bronchus. There is displacement of the left bronchus. Okay, in your left atrial enlargement. And then your right atrial enlargement naman, there is lateral bulging of the right heart border. So again, your right atrium is the border forming in the right. Okay, there is bulging in here, more than 5.5 centimeter from the midline on a well-positioned PE radiograph. And elongation of the right heart border. The length of right heart border exceeds 50% of the vaginal cardiovascular shadow. So this is how your right atrial enlargement looks like. And then left ventricular enlargement. So elongated left heart border with the apex pointing downward on PA. So this is your Schmuck configuration. Prominent rounding of the inferior left heart border. Here there is left ventricular enlargement. Your Schmuck configuration. Here's your Schmuck configuration. Left ventricular enlargement. We also have this Hoffmann-Regler sign. So the measurement is taken 2 centimeters above the intersection of the diaphragm and the IVC in this area. Positive if the posterior border extends more than 1.8 centimeters of the IVC. Okay, so 2 cm above the intersection of the diaphragm and the IVC. Okay, so you have a positive or left ventricular enlargement if you have a positive Hoffmann-Regler sign. It is positive if the posterior border, okay, if the posterior border extends more than 1.8 cm of the IVC. So take note of the measurement. That's your for your Hoffmann-Regler sign. Then right ventricular enlargement, it tends to lift the apex and create a more horizontal vector to the cardiac axis. Indirect signs such as enlargement of the pulmonary outflow tract or hilar arteries and confidence. Okay, so if the RV fills too much of the retrosternal, clear space or climbs more than 1/3 of the sternal length, okay, so that's your indication of your right ventricular enlargement. Again, your right ventricle, it is the most unclear portion in your lateral view. So if you will not appreciate the retrosternal clear space, okay, so it may be an indication that there is right ventricular enlargement. Next, your pulmonary vascularity, so your pulmonary arteries and your pulmonary veins. Okay, so that's your area of your right pulmonary artery, and then the left pulmonary artery, and then in this area are your pulmonary veins. Okay, so for your pulmonary arterial vascularity assessment, so this one, Increased, this is the normal vascularity, and this one is decreased. Again, decreased, normal, and increased vascularity. For your increase, it is also referred to as a shunt vascularity or increased pulmonary blood flow. Left to right shunt, such as your ASD, VSD, PDA, and AV canal. Then right ventricular output is 2.5 times more than the left to be apparent on chest X-ray. And in here, there is active congestion. So in your increased pulmonary arterial vascularity, there is active congestion. In your decreased pulmonary arterial vascularity, obstruction of the level of the right ventricle. And in this one, in your decrease, there is right to left shunt. Mild shunt defects and mild obstruction may have normal pulmonary arterial blood flow on chest X-ray. So what are the reasons of your pulmonary venous congestion? So it can be dysfunction of the left side of the heart, your left ventricle and left artery, pulmonary veins dilate, elevated pulmonary venous pressure, fluid leaks into the perivascular interstitial tissues, leads to pulmonary edema and pulmonary venous congestion. That's your passive congestion. So for the pulmonary venous congestion, so normal, the lower lobe predominance of pulmonary vasculature. And then in the presence of venous congestion or hypertension, there will be equalization and cephalization of the vasculature. There will be curly B lines indicative of interstitial edema, meniscus sign indicative of pleural effusion, and then patchy multifocal bilateral infiltrates indicative of your alveolar edema. So this one is an example of your pulmonary venous congestion or pulmonary edema. As you can see, the pulmonary vasculatures are prominent or engorged. Okay, so this is an example of your pulmonary edema. Okay, so kung makikita natin yung vascularity niya magulo. Okay, so there is cephalization of the pulmonary vascularity and engorgement. Okay, so indicative of your pulmonary edema. Another example of your pulmonary venous congestion or edema. So that's your linear curly A lines. So that's the area of your interstitium. That's your curly A lines. And this one, there is pulmonary edema. So you can see there is engorgement of the pulmonary vasculature. And then increased opacity in the both hilar and perihilar regions. Then the great arteries. So the aorta, so that's the area of your aorta. This one is normal. Okay, sometimes it is prominent or diminutive. So this one is a normal aorta in here. The main pulmonary artery. Okay, so the right and left pulmonary artery. And then this one, as you can see in here, the aorta is prominent. Okay, so usually sa mga elderly, so ganyan, nagiging ganyan yung kanilang aorta. This one diminutive, so parang halos hindi mo makita yung shadow ng aorta. Okay, so that's your, when you see aorta in your chest X-ray, it can be normal, prominent, and diminutive. Then the main pulmonary artery, this one, okay, so it is prominent, okay, and also in here. So that's your main pulmonary artery, right? And then this one, it can also appear as flat and also concave. Okay, so that's your appearance of your main pulmonary artery. Again, it can be prominent, it can be flat pulmonary artery, and then it can be concave. Now let's go to your myocardial infarction. So what are the risk factors for your myocardial infarction? So it is more common in male than females, more than 45 years old for males, and more than 55 for females. What are the cardiovascular risk factors? Smoking, hypertension, LDL cholesterol, hyperlipidemia, diabetes, and obesity. So your right coronary artery in here, so that's the area of your aorta, and then your right coronary artery in here. It supplies the thin-walled right ventricle. This artery is dominant in 70% of patients meaning that this artery supplies the inferior heart and posterior interventricular septum via the posterior descending artery. Okay, so from the right coronary artery, it will divide to your posterior descending artery. So it will supply the posterior interventricular septum. Then there are left anterior descending artery. It supplies the anterior part of the left ventricle and the anterior aspect of the interventricular septum. And then your circumflex artery. It supplies the lateral and posterior aspect of the left ventricle. In 10% of patients, this artery is dominant, meaning that it supplies the inferior heart and posterior interventricular septum. Okay, so take note of the blood supply. So this one, again, plain radiograph. So it is useful in excluding other causes of chest pain, including the pneumonia. Less useful in the direct diagnosis of MI. The cardiomyostinal contours are usually normal, and cardiomegaly may be indicative of ischemic cardiomyopathy or acute infarction. So for the pulmonary venous hypertension, if it's mild, there's a wedge pressure of 10 to 13 millimeters mercury. Moderate, there will be equalization of upper and lower lobe blood flow with wedge pressure of 14 to 16 millimeters mercury. Severe, if there's upper lobe more distended, wedge pressure of 17 to 20 millimeters mercury. And if there's progressive cephalization, is accompanied by progressive enlargement of the pulmonary artery and feeding out of hilar angles. So your CT scan, it may provide useful cross-sectional information for patients with MI. Helps in the assessment of cavity dimensions and wall thickness, and it depicts LV aneurysms and intracardiac thrombi, which is important in your myocardial infarction. So this is your CT scan of the heart after contrast injection in your eggshell view. Note of this transmural feeding defect in here. It's pointed by the arrow of the anterior wall of the left ventricle. Okay, so this is an example of your myocardial infarction. So it provides three-dimensional visualization of the coronary artery anatomy and ramifications, its calcification, stenosis, and even the presence of soft plaque in the wall of the coronary artery. So again, in here, there is a transmural filling defect in the anterior wall of the left ventricle. In MRI, it provides valuable information on assessing scar tissue as well as salvageable myocardium. Okay, so in your MRI, you can assess your scar tissue as well as the salvageable myocardium. In acute phase of infarction, the myocardial edema can be seen as T2-weighted high-signal regions. It has been shown that these regions are salvageable. These segments of myocardium are called your myocardium at risk. Okay, and then the scar tissue naman, it is identified using your late gadolinium enhancement images. So in your MRI, we use gadolinium for contrast media. Late gadolinium images are T1 weighted inversion recovery images obtained 10 minutes after your gadolinium injection for you to evaluate scar tissue in your MRI. And then angiography. So digital subtraction angiography. And it shows intraluminal arterial compromise, acute intervention with angioplasty instead. Okay, so this is your gold standard for treatment of ST elevation myocardial infarction. So in here, there is a 60% occlusion in this area. Okay, so this is an example of your angiography. So I think this is the last slide for this lecture. So we will discuss the congenital heart disease next week. Thank you.